Welcome to Click for IB Biology. We're studying genetics and we're turning our attention to the phenomena of polygenic inheritance. And of course, poly means many and genic is referring to gene. So this is a multiple gene inheritance phenomena, not the single genes of monohybrid genetics that we've been studying so far. So we should expect some differences. There's a blank version of this presentation, a PDF linked into the description. You can download that, add your own notes, then take the 10-question quiz, check out the answers to consolidate your understandings of polygenic inheritance. So polygenic inheritance is defined as a characteristic that is controlled by two or more genes. It should be said, of course, that those genes actually tend to operate in a different manner to the Mendelian genes that we've already been looking at in our monohybrid genetics crosses as well. And so I'll illustrate this with reference to skin color. Necessarily, the example that I'm going to show you is a simplified version of the inheritance of skin color, where I'm only going to take two genes as part of the discussion, whereas it's estimated that there are, in fact, four genes associated, at least four genes associated with human skin color. Now, human skin color does not fall into the distinct categories that we have been seeing so far, but actually into variation, which more of this style here. On the left, we have what is called discontinuous variation, and this style of variation here is called continuous variation. So these are distinct categories, whereas this is a smooth transition from one part of the characteristic to the other. And of course, I think we would all agree that skin color tends to follow the pattern in B rather than the pattern in A. In my model of skin color inheritance, we're going to take two genes, I'm going to call them A and B, and I'm going to, for the purposes of this demonstration, have them in a dominant and recessive factor, in which the dominant A adds melanin, which is the pigmentation for skin, at the nominal value of 1 unit. And we're going to be adding units of color, adding units of melanin. Little a has no melanin, so that has no units of color. Big B has 1 unit of color, much like A, and little b adds no melanin. Now, if we then look at the gametes that we could possibly have for such a cross, if we did a heterozygous, this is a double heterozygous cross, of course, then the gametes would be big A, big B, little a, big B, little a, little b, little a, little b. Sorry, that one's big A, little b. And the numbers which I'm showing here are the values, the units of color added by each gamete. So if we have big A, that would be 1, and big B would be 1. And then if we fertilize that with a similar gamete with A 1 and B equal to 1, then we would end up with a total number of units of color of 4. So if you work your way through this table, you can work out the color variation, and the numbers in brackets represent the actual colors of the units of melanin coloration to the skin. But if we then take the grid like so these are the possible genotypes of skin color. Let's remember, I'm doing two genes to illustrate the purpose, whereas in fact it's really 4 or more. Then this grid that we obtained from the previous diagram can be turned into this frequency chart. So as you can see, there is 1 in 16 has 0, 1 in 16 has 4 units, and we end up with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 units of skin color. And that would be the genotypes, and this was actually showing the genotypic variation. So each individual has a genotype, and in the population, each individual has a genotype, but they're different. And so the frequency of those are shown in this diagram here. However, when we add in the environmental variation, then what this does is smooths out the distinction of one genotype group from another, so that we end up with the distribution model seen in the previous slide. The variation in a population is due to the fact that the population has individuals of different genotypes, and that each genotype, each person, will experience the environment in a different way. So population variation is due to genetic variation plus environmentally experienced variation. This is an entry-level introduction to a phenomenon which is called population genetics. We'll come back to population genetics when we are looking at the topic of evolution. Polygenic inheritance, characterized by the smooth transition from one phenotype to the other, and with distribution models like so. The next video in our list is now shown here, the link to the channel should you wish to subscribe, and of course the playlist with an entire list of the genetics videos.